Judge Joe Brown is not one to shy away from controversy, from Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill to his most recent comments about women in leadership. He knows how to stir the pot, and he's here with us today to talk about why he's running for mayor of Memphis. So welcome to the show, Judge Joe Brown.
I'm here.
Yes, you are, Judge, and we're glad to have you here. So let's go back to this Harriet Tubman conversation, 2019, when there were talks about Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. One of your responses to the idea, quote, these are your words, if any single black person deserves the honor, it's Frederick Douglass, who's credited with starting the abolitionist movement, into that quote. So are you actually saying that there's something wrong with Harriet Tubman being on that $20 bill? Clear that up for us, Judge.
Okay, let me put this to you. By way of illustration, let's suppose Home and Garden has had a Homemaker of the Year award every year. Mm-hmm. And there's never been a black woman who's ever received the award, and it's always a female of some other race. So the first time they have somebody black on there, they put a black male instead of a black female. How would you feel about that? Next thing, consider that in this day and time, it's not the girls doing the drive-bys, it's the boys. Next thing, this same year, the National Harriet Tubman Association gave me the Man of the Year award, and also the local one in Memphis gave me the Man of the Year award. And the other thing is guess what? The lady herself said in some of her later life musings that if any black person deserved recognition, it was her hero, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass also happened to be a hero. Frederick Douglass also happened to be a hero of my family. My grandfather idolized him. Next thing, it wasn't black people's idea to come up with Harriet Tubman. About 18, 19 years ago, when I was walking around Paramount Studios, I worked for them. I heard some people that don't like men very well plotting on how they were going to get a woman on a bill first. They talked about various white women, and then one of them I heard had an idea, this was some weeks later, that they were going to get, let's pick a black woman, and further we can demoralize black men, which is something they need to have happen. Let's find somebody. They were doing a movie called Harriet. It was based on Harriet Tubman's life, but they were going to make it a white woman who was born in Boston and married a very racist Southern plantation owner, but she was supposed to be white. And they were talking about, forget the historical unrealism. It didn't make any difference because nobody would care. Well, Judge, not something that came up in a wholesome fashion.
Gotcha.
Well, so Judge, speaking of history, you're running to make a little history yourself. You're running for mayor of Memphis, and we know that the city's been in the headlines for the murder of Tyree Nichols, among other things. What do you make of the chief of police and her handling of the situation?
She should never have been hired.
She should not have been hired?
No.
Why not?
We had competent black women in command positions, 3 or 4 of whom I have been acquainted with for 30-some years, who should have been hired. They brought somebody in to be, get this, the first civil service chief in 41 years. Prior to that, we had civil appointees who were civilians subject to the women control of the mayor's office, so there was political control over the police department. This incompetent mayor we have in right now, named Jim Strickland, who has done nothing but waste time in the office, and he's term limited now, brought her in after she was demoted, fired, reinstated under civil service hearing provisions, left, went to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, was under investigation again, and was hired out of there. Now, without getting into the gory details, what she was alleged to have done wrong was to have hidden somebody's who, to make a long story short, wound up getting 10-year federal sentences for some hideous crimes. So let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
We will deal with it, because you see what's likely to happen is I'm most likely to become the next mayor, so it's going to be falling in my lap. And I've always maintained a lifetime policy of being fair and impartial, neutral, and detached when it comes to resolving matters, even if they don't match my taste. That's why I wound up finding out, for example, James Earl Ray didn't shoot Dr. Martin Luther King, but the FBI was behind it, and they supplied the murder weapon and ammunition. And it was a two-man hit team from the fire station, not the flop house or the bushes below that flop house bathroom window. So you have to be fair and objective.
Sure. Now, with you being on your way to Memphis as the mayor, as you are already claiming, what are your thoughts on the officers?
I'm already here. Been here 50 years. I transport from Los Angeles.
On your way to the mayor's seat. How about that? What are your thoughts on the officers involved in the Tyree Nichols case? And I'm assuming you agree with the decision to disband that Scorpion unit that was involved? I
don't disagree with that. I do not agree with that decision. See, the Scorpion unit started off 3 years ago as Blue Crush, following citizen demands that something be done to cut down the rampant crime. I actually am personally acquainted with the commander of the former Blue Crush unit, who resigned in frustration for lack of command backup. I am acquainted with somebody very close to the last commander of the Scorpion unit, which was the renamed Blue Crush unit, who retired in just abject frustration, again, because there was no command authority backup. Now, that said, we have a total breakdown in command and communications oversight and an ineptitude when it comes to the upper level management. Now, this lady that they brought in, I don't see why they did it. There's nothing to recommend it. We have some fine young women here. Well, not young women, but fine women here who could have stood in. I am personally acquainted with several, as I have said. Well, now, next thing, what we have here is, remember, this is likely to fall in my lap to resolve when it ultimately gets there.
Judge, in our remaining moments with you, I've got to ask you this question. You recently caught some backlash for comments that you made about women in leadership at a mayoral candidates forum. This is according to Fox 13. What's your response when folks say that you have a problem with women in power?
I don't have that's bull. That's bull. Now, let me put this. What's going on is a setup. They have an organization called the Young Democrats of Shelby County, all right? 23 of them showed up to a nightclub that was in session doing nightclub stuff. There were about 150 people who wound up coming down there, and there were 23 of these who signed in. When I made my remarks, I got applause, high fives. About 15, 20 women volunteered to sign up for the campaign. But the 23 who were down there with an objective that did not include me actually being there, because they didn't give me notice. Somebody on my committee said you need to show up. And what I said was actually a quote from a 19-year-old black female college student. And I just quoted her under the circumstances. And what's going on is Memphis is a dangerous place. Just this last weekend, we had 14 shootings or stabbings, and yesterday we had 4 more and quite a few fatalities. Now, this family of Nichols, they're only one of it at the moment. Since I talked to one of your producers this morning, I went back and looked, and now it is 663 families who lost loved ones in the last 24 and a half months. That includes my personal friend who is helping me on the campaign. That includes somebody who does the electrical work around my house. He just lost his son last weekend. That includes 2 former co-workers who've lost sons or grandsons. There are too many people dying, and right now, in order to do a turnaround, you have to have somebody who can get up close and personal, hands-on with the people.
Well,
and there's nobody out there right now but me who can do that. Now, making history. Let me give you this. One of my clients was mayor of Memphis, and my former law partner was the mayor of Memphis. So let's just say it's time to put things back in capable hands where leadership can be exerted. And as far as that crime problem goes, in a 10-year period when I was sitting on the criminal bench, the real deal, statewide recidivism rate was 80%. But in my courtroom, I dropped it down to just 18. So I want to put back in place what I was doing then that worked so well about restoring order in this area, but on a larger basis.
Well, we have heard from Judge Joe Brown, who is running for mayor of Memphis, running to restore order. We'll continue to keep our eye on your campaign. Thank you for joining Fox Soul's Black Report. Come back again soon.
And I love the glasses, Judge.
Hey,
you gonna win with those glasses. I love them.
My excuse. Yeah,
you look great. Thanks for joining us.
Los Angeles, bud. You know it.
That's right.
Take care,
Take
Judge.
care. Thanks, Judge.
All right.